I know my friends and brothers in ActionAid will not be happy to say whoever is going should pay. Particularly after we participated in the first campaign for us to be forgiven. And then thereafter, those who inherited the slates went about borrowing as if to say borrowing is going out of fashion. So let's borrow. Let's see a typical instance. If all of you are students of public finance management, some 3-4 years ago, there was SIFTAS. It was very popular. Everybody was following and clapping. What was SIFTAS? You are being asked to implement your fiscal responsibility law at the state level. Implement your public procurement law. You don't have a reformed audit law. Reform your audit law. And we took money running into tens of billions from the World Bank. At the end of the day, I participated in the drafting of audit reform bills through the Governors Forum where we were hired as a consultant across the 36 states. Now, the point is, do you really need money from the World Bank for Onyekpere to come and help you, or anybody or Celeste to come and draft an audit law? I told them at one of the meetings that from my own state, if and only if they are ready to implement audit reforms, that I will draft their bill and oversee it free of charge. All right? And so that's part of our money. Once you show you have drafted the audit bill, you pass one, what do they call it? The ticket, and then disburse, like say, $1 million to the state governor. And that's the end of it. The state governor will simply pocket the money and do whatever he likes. No accountability. So most of these loans in the first place were not necessary. Okay? You don't need money for somebody to do the right thing. I made mention of the fact that I'm confounded. We are supposed to have made some savings from fuel subsidy removal. We are supposed to have increased revenue to GDP, and more will come from the tax reform bills when they become implemented. So I would have thought that that would have reduced the space for borrowing. A little, like if you needed 15 trillion a year, fuel subsidy gives you, say, 7 trillion removed. Then revenue reforms gives you another 3 or 4. So the space will now be limited to borrowing only 3 or 4 to make up. But we are still massively borrowing, which means that the challenge is not about the resources. The challenge is to what use are we putting available resources. I agree with you that GDP is not even going to be a good measure of whether we are making progress, whether poverty is reducing, whether more people are getting jobs. And let me sound a note of warning. This administration is very funny in terms of statistics. I think the National Bureau of Statistics has lost there's this mojo it had when the former DG was there, right, some years ago. Now, putting a new base year and reducing the weight of indicators that contributes to calculating inflation so that it comes down from 33 to 23 does not, you are simply doing gymnastics. The inflation is still here, nothing changed. Are you with me? Now, recalculating this GDP we are talking was almost 500 billion in the last days of Jonathan. And the World Bank is telling us now it's roughly about 200 or 210 or 220 billion. Redoing the calculation of the dynamics of how it's calculated is not going to add any kobo to anybody's purse. Because if it is 200 million and we are owing about 50 billion, 90 something 100 billion, now that means we are owing about half of our GDP. So they want to recalculate it to tell you they are now owing only 25 or 27%. So those things, I am not impressed. I remember going to the meeting where they were telling us of how to rebase, they also did rebasing of calculation of unemployment. That if you work for only 1 hour in a week, you are employed. That's the new method. That's the new definition. That's the new definition. I protested and protested, and the man stood up to say that some of us are mistaking employment with poverty. That we should differentiate between employment and poverty. Okay? that what they are calculating is employment, and that we are looking at employment from the poverty background to say, if you are employed, therefore you must move away from being poor to the people who are not poor. So, has that changed employment? If you are to calculate employment today, it is worse than the situation we had in 2021-22. But today, they will tell you unemployment in Nigeria is less than 5%. So those rebasing, recalculation, we should all take it with a pinch of salt. Misplacement of priorities, how can we change the narrative? The narrative is like we in this room can take a decision what we want to do. For instance, this debt approval issue, we can make a decision, and by tomorrow we start either visiting there on the streets or in the media, whatever we need to do, we can do it. And then finally, is there hope? Do you want to hear the truth? You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. In 1995, 1985, 86, Babangida was president during those things. He made a speech. He asked us in 1985, I was either in my third year in the university, that for our today, which was 1985, for our tomorrow, we should give up our today. We should give up the enjoyment we are supposed to do in 1985, 86, so that we can enjoy a brighter future. I agreed and gave up. Thereafter, the other people came, they also preached the distance. And this is 37 years since I left school. It still happened before I left school. And you are still asking me to sacrifice. And you are asking me whether they are so. The only people I pity are the younger ones. In the next 10, 15 years, I will no longer be a worker subject to payment of tax. I'm almost 60. The younger ones who will continue. In the next 10, 15 years, people may not likely to be here. Obasanjo will be gone. So it is these young men who, even when some of us talk on social media, I look at idiots start trolling me. I'm wondering, you are 35, 20, and we are borrowing this money. And if I have today, if I want to join the people who will steal this money, they will welcome me with open arms. Is that I don't want to go. And you are the one who is going to pay, and you are trolling me. There is no hope. If you think if the situation continues the way it is going, there is no hope. But there will be hope if we change the dynamics.
Thank you very much. Let us put our hands together for you.